We are about to convene our annual town meeting. Thank you all for coming. Welcome to the 2023 Ashfield Annual Town Meeting. My name is Buzz Eisenberg, and as our town moderator, I'll be chairing today's proceeding. There is no quorum required. We are fully quorumed, even if one was. The fire exits are these two doors, and the two doors from which we enter. We can have quiet in the house, please. If you want to speak quietly to each other so we're not in competition with each other. At this time, I'd like to ask our town clerk, Alex Mirosenko. You got to change your name so that I can get it right. Read the return of the warrant. Oh, you can.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Franklin SS. To any of the constables of the town of Ashfield in the county of Franklin, greetings. In the name of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, you are hereby directed to notify and warn the inhabitants of said town qualified to vote in elections and in town affairs to meet at the town hall in said Ashfield on Saturday, the 6th day of May, 2023 at 10 o'clock in the morning, then and there, to act on the following articles. There are 35 articles, and you are directed to serve this warrant by posting up attested copies thereof at the Ashfield Town Hall and the Ashfield Post Office in town 7 days at least before the time of holding said meeting. Hereof fail not and make due return of this warrant with your doings thereon to the town clerk at the time and place of meeting as aforesaid. This was signed by Tom Carter, Todd Olanek, and Steve Goodgen, our members of the Select Board, on the 24th day of April. And it was posted by Elizabeth Lejour, April 27th, 9 days before the date of this meeting.
Thank you. As we know, our bylaws require that only registered voters and their younger children sit in these two bodies of seating during the voting that we'll be doing today. Non-registered voters may sit in the flanks. I see there's one person here I gave permission who is a registered voter who will be sitting with his friend who is not a registered voter. Is everyone here? Oh, you are a registered voter.
Yes, yes.
It'd be much easier for me to make sure everybody who's voting is properly registered if you moved over to here so that the flanks were only populated by people who are not registered voters of Ashfield. Yes. So if you are a registered voter, please move here so we can keep track of who's voting.
I do have a cold, so I wanted to kind of keep my distance.
Okay, Mrs. Kohler, I know who you are, and we'll make an exception for you. Everybody who's in here is a registered voter, right? Either of these two blocks? Thank you very much. If you are not a registered voter in the town of Ashfield, if you wish to speak, you may seek permission. The meeting can give you permission to speak. You'll have to ask me to get the meeting's permission. And you're allowed to stay as long as you promise not to vote or raise your hand on anything that's before us. I hope that you each have the handouts that have been provided for you, which includes the warrant containing the articles that we're going to be considering today. Remember that what you have is a copy of the posted warrant. The motion will not read exactly as the posted warrant. It should be within the scope of what the posted warrant has. That will be my determination of whether or not a motion complies with the posting to satisfy the law. We traditionally advance Article 1 before we handle any other matters, including our ceremonial matters, so that we can open the voting downstairs so people can work on the ballots, vote on the ballots that are downstairs. Is there any objection to advancing Article 1, and then we'll deal with the other matters that we have to deal with, so that we can open the balloting downstairs? Any objection? Hearing no objection, is the constable in the house? Madam Constable, can you tell us whether you examined the box and whether it is empty?
Yes. Good morning, everyone. Moderator, town meeting's guests. I went down, I looked at it, and it's empty. I'd like to see it go right to the top. So it's all right.
Well, Constable Lejour says it is empty. And it is empty. Thank you so much. Do I hear a motion to opening the voting downstairs?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town open the polls and for the election of officers, one assessor for 3 years, one Board of Health member for 3 years, one constable for 3 years, 2 finance committee members for 3 years, one library trustee for 5 years, one moderator for 1 year, 2 park commissioners for 3 years, 1 park commissioner for 2 years, 1 park commissioner to fill an unexpired term for 1 year, 1 planning board member for 5 years, 1 school committee member for 3 years, 1 select board member for 3 years, 1 sewer commission member for 3 years, and 1 tree warden for 1 year. And to vote the following question. Shall the town of Ashfield be allowed to exempt from the provisions of Proposition 2 1/2 so-called the amounts required to pay for the bond issued in order to fund the purchase of a new fire truck?
Second. And that has been seconded. Every time you do that, I want to say, and a partridge in a pear tree, but I don't.
The addition to that would be the polls will close at 4 p.m.
Thank you very much. Any discussion or comments about whether we should open the polls? Mr. Myers. It has been suggested to me that people who are speaking speak right into the microphone so everyone can hear.
So my question on this, how much is it going to cost each of us for the fire truck? Would you exclude the debt limit?
That is all we're talking about right now. The scope of this is, should we open the polls right now?
So I brought up the question about the
No, he only talked about the polls.
It's on the ballot.
It's on the ballot.
So we haven't decided whether to open the ballot.
All we're deciding right now is we're going to open the polls.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Moderator?
Yes.
Just to expand on that, not that we're stiff-arming you on the question, we're going to get a chance to talk about it later because it has to pass here and on the ballot.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Myers, for modeling for us again. So the scope of this article is, should we open the ballot now before we do some of the other things that we're going to be doing? All in favor of opening the ballots now, the voting now, say aye. Aye. Any opposed to opening it now? Any abstentions? It carries. The polls are officially open. Could someone notify me, is Constable Lejour still here? Okay, thank you, you're downstairs. Good. All right. So Article 1 has passed. I'd like to identify the people that keep our community running, our town government running, who are seated up here. I'd like to acknowledge Town Administrator Paul McClatchy III. There are, what do you call it, name plates. And Alexis Fedoryasenko. Is that close enough? This is embarrassing. I've known her for so long. She's our town clerk. Our chair, Tom Carter, of our select board. Our vice chair, Todd Alanek and Steve Goodgen, select board member. Our finance committee chair, Tom Miner Jr. You are not Carol Liebel. So we have Kyle Taylor, we have Carol Liebel, we have Ben Markins, and we have Mark Burton. And I would just like to say, as a citizen and as a moderator, we are really lucky to have this group of people. They do extraordinary work, and that's not that I can't disagree with them as the day goes on, but I know firsthand how much work they put into it, and I know as a citizen how grateful I am to have them working on our behalf. So. Indeed. Usually I ask people not to applaud when we're actually debating matters, because your applause could daunt someone who wants to speak against something that you just applauded. But this time I applaud with you to thank them for their service. Speaking of people who are offering service, I'd like to identify the tellers today. Is Nina Kohler in the house yet? She is not. She will be. She'll have to be sworn in by the town clerk when she comes. We have Tom McCrun, Judy Howe, Faye Whitney, Marcine Eisenberg, all regular and extensive contributors to our town who will act as tellers in the event we can't determine how a vote count went. This is maybe the saddest and maybe the most important time every year where we recognize those people who have passed away since our last annual town meeting. I will be reading their names, and then I will ask for a moment of silence. If you're able to stand and wish to, please stand as we engage in a moment of reflection of our friends and neighbors. Helen Jean Silver, Caroline Davis Murray, Mark E. LaValle, Paul E. Champigny, Bruce Goldstein, Dennis Arthur Nolan, Mary Cassidy, Rebecca Ann Whitehead, Lawrence F. Sheehan, Robert Thomas Doyle, Anne Marie Veronica Finn, Edward Thomas Landers, Mary Bartow Snow, Kenneth William Bierhorst, Doc Barbeau, Alexander Waldo Hamilton, Barbara Louise Marcel, Michael J. Versailles Sr., Janine Mankin, James F. Maloney, Phyllis A. Hubert, Paul Staphylaricus. If we could have a moment of silence in memory of our friends and neighbors and loved ones. Thank you. Thank them. I'm sorry, Carol. Susan Kudnahovsky was not on that list. Susan Kudnahovsky. Thank you, Ms. Carol. As required by our 1849 bylaws, this is everybody's favorite part, where I now read the bylaws which are required to be read at the opening of every annual town meeting. May 24th, 1849. We've been at this a long time. Code of bylaws. All persons present at any town meeting shall, while the meeting is open, be seated when requested by the presiding officer, if there be sufficient seats therefore, and if not, they shall stand at the west end of the hall. I hope we don't have that. I do hope we have that problem. 2, when anyone addresses the chair, he shall rise, stand uncovered during his speaking. 3, no one shall stand in front of the chair or around the moderator's stand when votes are being counted or given, except if they're called upon by the chair. 4, there shall be no talking about the house while business is being done, and all shall keep silence at the request of the chair. 5, no one shall speak on the same question more than twice without leave of the meeting or to explain to a call of order. 6, no one shall interrupt another while speaking except to call him to order. 7, when several motions are made in regard to the same subject relating to the same sums of money or time, the question shall be first put upon the largest sum or number and the longest time. 8, in all other cases, no new motion shall be made while one is pending, except as an amendment, or to commit, or to adjourn. 9, when a vote decided by the moderator is questioned, it shall be made certain by persons on either side, rising, standing in their place, uncovered, until counted by the moderator or tellers appointed by the moderator. 10, The reports of all committees relating to money or property shall be in writing. 11, all motions and amendments shall be in writing when required by the chair or by any person. 12, no person shall be allowed to move the reconsideration of any vote unless he has voted in a majority or not voted at all. 13, no peddling or smoking shall be allowed in the hall during the meeting. And 14, this code of bylaws shall be read by the presiding officer or town clerk at each annual town meeting. The warrant this year contains 35 articles, and we want every voter to know what she or he is being asked to vote on. Rather than reading each article in its entirety as it appears in the warrant or in the motion, we have learned that by dispensing with the complete preliminary reading and instead just referring to the number of that article, we save valuable time for discussion, an important thing to do when we have 35 articles as we do today. This makes sense since meeting members now have been provided with copies of the warrant, so each of you have notice of the posted article that we'll be considering. Are there any other announcements before we start? Hearing none. At this time, Finance Committee Chair, Tom Miner Jr., has prepared an overview of this year's budget in order to assist us in making the financial decisions we will soon be asked to make. Mr. Miner, would you use the microphone, please?
Good morning, everyone. Days like today make me wish we were back on the town common having this meeting. You guys should have received a 5-page handout along with the other materials. I'll be as brief as I can. I know we have 35 articles to get to today, along with 10 we took care of at 9:30. Each year, we try to prepare a brief summary of a higher level view of the budget because I know when I first started on the committee and coming to town meetings, it can be kind of difficult when you're looking at 35 articles to figure out any sort of context as to what these numbers actually mean. And if any of the terminology on these pages is unfamiliar, we have some great resources on the town website or call me. So on the first page here, we look at just how we get to a budget year to year. The top section, we take last year's levy limit. How much money can we raise and add 2.5%? We add in state and local funds the town receives each year. Any debt exclusions we have approved in the past, we obviously have to pay for them. And any other available funds not included above, such as our stabilization fund, free cash, etc. Add in any enterprise funds on top of that, and you get to total available funds number this year of $7,210,000, $7,210,815. As you'll see throughout the day and in the pages to follow, the total funds requested for this year's budget are $7,176,000, leaving an excess levy of just under $35,000.
What is a levy, Mr. Miner?
Levy is how much money the town can raise. Excess levy is how much we are not raising below that maximum. The next page shows Ashfield's reserve balances. Our financial policies state that we should keep between 10 and 15% of our total budget in reserve. What makes up our town's reserve funds are our stabilization fund and any unallocated free cash. So this shows the last 4 years. You can see this year we're right in the sweet spot, 12.5%, right between 10 and 15. This number has been easier to meet in recent years. In 2021, we actually removed the enterprise funds from that calculation, which are, when we started the broadband enterprise fund, those accounts have pretty large balances, but they fund themselves. So keeping 10 to 15% in reserve for an account that funds itself did not seem necessary. The next page, page 3, kind of shows all the big buckets of expenses. Now, this is kind of a roll-up to give some context. Every one of these dollars is discussed in detail in the articles in the annual town meeting warrant. This just gives kind of an overview of all of our spending in the general categories. So, as we talked about in the special town meeting, you can see one of the increases this year is to general government. As we had discussed, we're moving some of our accounting services from our FERCog line item into a staff line item. So, category 800, intergovernmental, while that's going down by $31,000, that's actually just being moved up into the general government line item. You can see our debt expense increases quite a bit this year. That's a broadband paydown, which again we'll discuss in detail in the articles. You add in capital requests for the year and the overlay funding, and you can see the total budget for the year matches what was on the first page, $7,176,000. Other sources of funding we use to reduce the amount we raise and appropriate. Free cash, we've allocated $296,000 of free cash spending. The enterprise funds, as you can see, is a direct offset, funds itself. And the estimated state aid and local receipts, as discussed on the first page, brings us down to a raise and appropriate amount of $5,153,490. And just below that, that leaves us with an estimated tax rate of $18.05. I say estimated because a lot of the final numbers that will actually dictate what the tax rate is set to don't come in until later in the year. Page 4 just gives you some history of capital requests as well as this year. That does not include the debt exclusion for the fire truck this year because it's a debt exclusion. This is just what we're looking to fund within the actual raise and appropriate budget for the year. And page 5 just provides some context as to what makes up the tax rate. I don't have anything in particular to speak to on this page. Myself and the Finance Committee use this kind of as a cross-check when we say something looks like it is increased by quite a large amount, 20% increase, say. Sometimes you can look to this page and say, well, it's a 20% increase, but on an $18 tax rate, that only accounts for 15 cents, compared to something that might account for $5 or $6. So like I said, we're going to talk about all these numbers in detail as we discuss the articles in the warrant. I would like to say, as you look through, the Finance Committee is charged with recommending all articles on the warrant that has to do with the budget. You'll notice this year, almost unanimous 5-0-0 votes. That's not by mistake. So we start meeting with the select board, department heads, we discuss this year's budget, priorities for the town, spending for upcoming years, and meet at least twice a week from January 1st to April. And in the end, land on a budget that we think is fair, balanced, and moves the town forward. And of course, if anyone would like to participate in that process, I welcome you to email me or go to the website and look at the posted agendas, and please come to any Finance Committee meeting. You'd be more than welcome.
And where can people find your email, Mr. Meyer?
Oh, I don't know if I'm willing to give that out on the town meeting floor, Mr. Moderator.
Well, then how can they email you?
Yes, financecommittee@ashfield.org.
Thank you. Thank you for that overview. And, you know, if there's more questions, you can ask them as we entertain the articles we are about to. Before we do that, on the flank, is there anyone in this block of seating or that block of seating who is not a registered voter in the town of Ashfield? raise your hand if you are not a registered voter. And on the flanks, could you raise your hand if you are a registered voter so I can know who's going to be voting? Is there any reason, Mr. Hall, why you can't be sitting in this block so it makes it easier for those of us who are counting? Any registered voters, please sit here, thank you, so that we know who's voting. Thank you. We have unanimously opened the polls in Article 1. Is there a motion with respect to Article 2?
Mr. Moderator,
Mr. O'Lanick?
I move that the town vote to accept the reports of the town officers.
Second.
Mr. Carter seconds it. Have anything to say about this? It's required by our bylaws since 1849 that we have those reports from our town committees, commissions, all town agencies in writing, and they are published in a book that is called the annual reports. So, thank you. Any questions, comments, discussion? All in favor of accepting the reports, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Before we do that, Mr. Goodgen, I'd like to take advantage of the incredible power I have up here to use my discretion. If you look in those town reports on page 3 or 4, we were so surprised, delighted, embarrassed when Mr. Carter rolled into our driveway yesterday morning to show us a couple of copies, one for us, one for our kids, I assume, of the reports. And you'll see that...
6:30, by the way.
Oh, 6:30. I was dressed. I want the record to show I was dressed at 6:30 yesterday when he surprised me. But, and then we found that this year's reports were dedicated to Marcine Eisenberg and Buzz Eisenberg, and when I say embarrassed and delighted, I can't overstate that enough. Because I'm looking out at the faces here. There's so many people who give so much to this town. And for us to be joining those other people who have enjoyed that honor of being, that recognition of having town reports dedicated to us. We are truly moved. We're grateful to those people who made that decision, but Marcine and I were talking about it this morning, and what we said is a true honor that we really enjoy. A much greater honor is living in this town with you people and being entrusted with jobs like this. It's truly touching and moving, and that's the real recognition and honor. It's just living here with all of you. Thank you. I just wanted to take advantage of the microphone. We are going to move on. Didn't I say no applause? Ms. Carroll, is this on Article?
It's about the book.
I'm sorry?
I just wanted to know if this is a typo on somebody's last name on page 8. It says Richard M.I., and I didn't know if that was the actual last name or if it was a typo.
Page 8, you say?
And the energy committee up on the last name? Yeah, that should be Richard Fred.
Anybody want to comment on that? We're sorry if there's a typo.
Yeah, it should be Richard Fred.
Okay, Richard should be Richard Prey. Okay, thank you very much for pointing that out. But we have accepted the reports as they are, and if there's scrivener's errors or other inadvertent errors, obviously we all apologize for that. Mr. Goodgen on Article 3.
Mr. Moderator,
Yes.
I move the town vote to authorize the town treasurer to enter into compensating balance agreements for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53F.
Second? Mr. O'Lanick seconds. Talk to us, please.
So what this does is gives the town treasurer the ability to borrow from certain funds such as our stabilization or free cash if we don't, if basically we're short in certain accounts for a period of time. It's unlikely, I mean, you get, tax bills going out, money coming in quarterly, but if there was a shortfall for the reason that we had a really big bill come in, this just basically makes sure we keep the books balanced.
Thank you. This too has been recommended 5-0 to the Finance Committee. I might not remember to say that for every article. You can see it written there, and you heard from the chair of the Finance Committee that in fact virtually everything here has been approved. That's the result of hours and hours of collaboration between the boards and thoughtful reflection and deliberation. So thank you. Are we ready to vote on Article 3? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? We are unanimous. Article 4, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to authorize the select board to accept and expend any grants and or gifts that may become available.
Second.
Second by Mr. Olanek. Have anything to tell us about that?
This is just an anticipation of grants that come in for a specific purpose that we can just run it right through without coming to town meeting.
They are moving that we say, accept away, please. Any discussion, comments, questions? All in favor of Article 4 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? It passes unanimously. Article 5.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Olanek.
I move that the town vote to authorize the select board to dispose of any unused town-owned equipment and or property. Period.
Is there, period. Is there a second? Mr. Goodgen, second. Explain.
Sure, this is if the town has any sort of surplus equipment that we're not using anymore, we can dispose of it. For example, last year I think we disposed of some filing cabinets, so that's an example of what types of things we get rid of.
Discussion, questions? Ready to vote on Article 5? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Article 6. Oh, of course, Mrs. Markin.
Jenny Markins, 597 Mills Road. I'm a member of the school committee. I am here to move that we vote to spend $2,904 and $2,904,975 for the school committee budget for 2024. And this money comes from taxes, yes. Raise and appropriate and transfer from available.
So the motion, I believe, is that the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums to fund educational expenses for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023. And then the sums are in the table that's there. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carter. Okay, so thank you. Unless you want to speak to this. No, you don't. Is the business manager from Mohawk here? There you are. Thank you so much for joining us. So, yes, please. And because some people treat it like an ice cream cone, but don't lick.
I can promise you that.
Mr. Moderator?
Yes, could you state your name, please?
Not a town resident.
Oh, thank you. He's not a registered voter in town of Ashfield. Is there any objection from hearing from the district, the Mohawk School District business manager about these expenses that we're being asked to approve? No objection? Okay, we don't need to vote. Thank you, Ms. Martin, for reminding me.
Thank you.
And state your name, please.
Can he use one of the,
I'm sorry, do you have
yeah,
one to be recognized?
one of the hand owners so we can see him when he's talking?
Um,
To the audience rather than.
In this particular case, yes, but as the day goes on, we might not want that to happen. But yes, please, you may stand at the side and look at all of us.
I'll stand over here, maybe kind of like this.
Very good.
Everybody.
State your name and position, please.
So my name is Bill Latoy. I'm the business administrator at Mohawk Trail. I've been there for just about a year. I want to thank the town administrators and board members, Mr. Moderator, and all of you for letting me speak. Our superintendent apologizes for not being here herself. We had 4 town meetings this morning, so we've split ourselves up, and we're going to be bouncing around because it's important that we're at all of these. I want to thank members of our school committee, Jen and Justin, and I want to thank the members of the finance committee that have been part of this budget process this year. I'm confident coming forward with this budget to you this year that this budget represents a lot of hard work, a lot of research, and a lot of fact checking to make sure that we're presenting the most sustainable budget that we can, recognizing that our towns have constraints financially, but we have to service our students as well. So putting all that together, I feel confident that we're here giving you the best budget that we can for this fiscal year. And I've learned a lot as we've been putting this budget together. On our webpage, you'll find that I have a couple different tabs for reports that anybody is welcome to click on, see where we are financially at any given point, see what the budget numbers are. My email address is on there as well, so you're welcome to email me anytime and ask any questions if there's something you see on there. Overall, we're excited because there's some good things happening in the district. The enrollment is up slightly from where we were last year, which is a good sign. We're never going to get those numbers back, but there are most districts in Massachusetts have declining enrollment. And since COVID, we've all seen a huge decline in enrollment. But we're seeing a slight rise, which is a good thing. So we're hopeful as we do that. As we move forward, we're looking for continued increases in programming for our students and things we can do. 76% of our students at Mohawk Trail complete advanced coursework, and 76% of our students earn a qualifying score on their advanced placement exams. So that's a pretty high percentage for a rural district like ours and the students that we have participating, and we're proud of that. Students that graduate from Mohawk Trail are going on to Mount Holyoke, they're going on to WPI, UMass Amherst, UMass Lowell, Bridgewater State, Dartmouth, Endicott, Wheaton, just to name a few, but the list does go on and on and on. We work to create experiences, work experiences with Trailside Veterinary, Suzer IT, Mass Hire, Berkshire East, just to name a few of those as well. So we're trying to be sure that our students gain all of the experience and everything they need to be successful when they leave our school. As of the beginning of this school year, enrollment at the total enrollment for the district was just about at 785. Which represents, like I said, about 20 to 30 more students than we had last year at this time. Ashfield has 84 students that are attending Sanderson, and there's 10 students that from Ashfield are school choice out. So what I've done this year as well is I've tried to make available as much information as I can about enrollment, where our students are going, what that looks like. So also on the webpage, you can click on the enrollment information anytime and see where your students are going, what schools they're attending out of the district, and all of that information. That's important to us because we want to know why students are leaving. And of course, we know that for some students, it's going to happen. There's reasons why students need to leave and go to other districts, but we're trying to follow through and find that information out and find out if there's something that we can do different to keep those students in our district as well. So just a little bit about the budget numbers. When we put this budget together, one of the things that we've tried to do over the last few years and that I've tried to do since I've been there is to represent all of the expenses. So the top budget that you see when you're looking at our budget is going to represent all of the expenses to the district. So it's $25,190,517. But that number represents all of the offsets. That's every expense that we have. Rate expenses, revolving expenses, anything that's being charged to other areas is in that number. Then what we do is we take that number, we reduce it down to where we have the local assessment number and, what that represents. So the local assessment number this year only went up by $378,000, which is 2.94% from last year. That was after many reductions, a lot of work with our members of our finance subcommittee, members of the communities that came and sat with us, how we could get that number down to a number that worked for all of our communities. For Ashfield, that represents $7,123 over FY23, or 0.29%. And your overall assessment, including capital, was up $52,656, or 2.14% over FY23. So we really worked hard to get that there, even though we had incredible odds against us. Like I said, coming out of COVID, there's been a lot of increases that we're stuck with. Some of those salaries and benefits have increased $650,000. Maintenance and operation costs are up $126,000. School choice, charter, and out-of-district tuition has increased 14%, which is $311,000. And transportation has increased 16%. And a lot of that is due to fuel costs and just lack of drivers and things like that. So we're working really hard to keep those numbers down. And matter of fact, our transportation contract goes out to bid for the FY25 contract. We've already started working on that as well. So, with all that said, like I said, I am, confident to present this budget to you. We're looking forward. With the offsets we're using in this budget, we're feeling good about the FY25 budget. That we're going to have some money that we're able to move forward and work ourselves so that our assessments to the communities again will be doable and will be workable, and into FY26 as well. So we are looking over that forward and trying to see how we can prepare and how we can work with everybody moving forward. Chapter 70 revenue remains a concern. The funding formula remains a concern. Our superintendent is, attending a lot of meetings with state and district officials and talking about this and trying to work with this. Rural aid this year, we're seeing a significant increase in rural aid, which is important to communities like, ours, our districts like ours and communities like yours, because that's what sustains us, because that Chapter 70 formula doesn't work, but the rural aid is what's helping. So we're using that to help offset those costs. As we move forward, we want to make sure that, we're recognizing all of the needs of our students and what we need to do. And we're hopeful that, we can continue to work together with all of this. So with that said, I thank you for your time and your consideration, and go from there.
Thank you, Business Manager Bill Latte. Before we go on, Jen Markins, who's been so ably representing us on the Mohawk Trail School Committee. Mr. Wellman, this is Justin Wellman, who has succeeded Greg Lilly, who did a wonderful job as our representative on the school committee. And Justin, thank you so much for being willing to serve us. I also want to point out that our own Finance Committee member, Ben Markins, has been working with the budget at Mohawk, and I think I spoke to the superintendent and Martha Thurber, the chair of the school committee. Both said Ben knows everything. So if we have some questions, we can direct it to Mr. Latte or to Mr. Knows Everything, Ben Markins. So, questions, comments? Oh, yes.
Hi, here's Leah Schwartz, Sears Road. I just have a couple of questions. I have a comment first. I'm just struck by that we have 288 students in that large school, and that continues to concern me in terms of expenses. I support the school budget, but I'm just really struck by that. I know it went up in terms of COVID, but that's obvious that people are coming back after COVID. So So I still think that's a huge concern. I have a question on what the 5.75% increase is attributed to, whether you're doing any AP courses now, which may bring students back, because I know they were cut at a certain point. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. Who should answer that? Okay.
I got the nod from Mr. Martin, so I will take this. So as I mentioned, 76% of our students are participating in AP courses, which is great. The leaders of the rise in percentages are the transportation, the maintenance costs, sorry, let me find that sheet. So those drivers are salaries and benefits, health insurance, contractual benefits to employees, maintenance and operations. The school choice charter and out-of-district tuitions have increased. Special ed tuitions have increased dramatically since COVID, again, because of a lack of placements and a lack of staff, and the transportation number has increased as well. So those are the drivers of those additional expenses. And I did not mention, and I thank you for bringing it up, that we are in the midst of a sustainability study. So there was a donation made to the district. We've hired a consulting firm. We are in the middle of a sustainability study. A lot of that information can be found on our website as well. What we're doing is we're trying to look at what's the best way to move forward. We recognize that our enrollment's dropped. We recognize that we have the 3 elementary schools, and we're moving forward with all of that work. What does that look like as we move forward? So we are looking into that. We're looking at the best ways to handle that, and then we'll have some recommendations from them. We'll work with our committee to bring those recommendations forward as to what we can do as a whole community or a whole district to move forward.
Follow up?
I have a quick follow-up. The AP classes are those online or
Are the AP classes online or are they in person at the school?
The AP classes are in person. There are a few classes that are taking place. There are a few students that have taken place, some of the courses online, but the AP classes are in person.
And in terms of the space issue, I just want to comment, I think it would be a great place to take a wing and use it for the senior center. So keep that in mind.
Thank you.
Okay, once again, anyone who wishes to speak, rather than me keeping a list of the order in which you raise your hand, come up here, stand in line. That'll make it easy, Ms. Howe. And, 6 feet apart would be good. All right. Ms. Carroll.
Ricky Carroll, Main Street. I was just wondering if you have a price per student for your entire budget. Anywhere on here, I couldn't find it.
So I don't believe that.
We need a microphone, because the finance committee hand. There we go.
Okay, thank you. So I'm told I don't usually need a microphone.
Well, for amplification and for recordation.
I get it. No, thank you. So it's not on this sheet, but right off the top of my head, it is about $27,000 per student. And the way we figure that number is, one of the ways we figure that number is when we're doing our end of the year report for the Department of Education, we take all of our expenses, then we take any expenses that are contributed to out-of-district expenses like special ed, transportation, school choice, things like that. You take those numbers off. The number that you're left with is the number that you divide your students that are in-house by, and that's how we come up with that number. That number is pretty much in line with most of our districts around that are, relatively the same services that we are.
Okay. Mrs. Martin, are you speaking as a citizen or as a school committee member? Well, I would allow you to speak.
I'm speaking as a school committee member.
Well, okay, so you would raise your hand and I would recognize you. Go ahead.
Okay.
Nice and close to the microphone.
Jenny Markins, 597 Bellis Road.
Justin and I traveled with a great number of people from the district on Thursday to go to the State House. It has taken years of organized advocacy among rural schools to finally get a commission, and they issued a report this past year on severe underfunding of our district and other rural districts, and this is coming up before the legislature. So we have not been idle in looking at these costs, and a significant amount of work has gone into lobbying legislators, Natalie Blay and also Steve Kulik, late Steve Kulik, and Adam Hines all also worked on this. So we're going to be asking you as citizens to write individually to lobby the legislature, because we have been underfunded in Chapter 70 and underfunded in transportation basically since the beginning of the regional agreement. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Martin. Yeah, Mr. Wellman.
Justin Wellman, 1327 Williamsburg Road. To piggyback off Ms. Markins, for anyone who is interested that wants to write to their elected officials, we have some bills that will be going up to the floor if anyone wants to document those and reference them specifically. House 2075, House Bill 2076, Senate Bill 335, Senate Bill 337, and Senate Bill 332. Each of those are to increase funding for rural schools specifically, but also a few bills that will affect the rest of the Commonwealth. But we are really pushing for additional funding here in Western Massachusetts and especially for our rural schools. With our representation in Boston on Thursday, we were able to meet with our legislators and put a lot more pressure on them. And if anyone sees any of the photos on the Mohawk side, we were wearing very, very bright hot pink shirts, so we could not be missed. And we have quite a few legislators that are starting to see us and starting to hear us, and we have a lot more representation and attention on the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Wellman. Thank you for your service. Ms. Allen. Nice and close. I scared you. Nice and close to the microphone, please.
Judy Halp, Watson Spruce Corner Road. I have two issues. A number of us in this community use Sanderson in the evening, and it has been a long time issue where the lights on the parking lot do not work at night. I don't know who to address this to. This has been requested many times in the past. They have not worked for years, and it is a safety factor. The second question is sustainability regarding the transportation issue. Do you know in the long term are the buses going to be going electric?
So that's the hope. We just applied for a grant this past year for some electric buses, but unfortunately as well, being a rural district and only applying for a few within our district, because we only have 2 district buses right now, we were put on the bottom of that list. We applied just recently for another grant. Like I said, our transportation contract's going out to bid, so one of the things that we're going to put into that bid is something about electric buses and moving forward and things like that. But there were, I believe, 15 communities that were part of that grant award. Most of them were from the eastern part of the state. But we're going to continue to work on that as well, so that we can help with that.
Thank you.
Buzz Eisenberg, I recognize me. My question is, we, the Commonwealth, passed a referendum which is adopted and passed the legislature and signed by the governor for a 4% tax for anyone earning over $1 million a year. And that those revenues, which were originally estimated to be about $2.6 billion, people are saying between 1.3 and 2.6 in a given fiscal year, must be split as a matter of law between education, public higher education, or 12 in Massachusetts, and transportation. That could be East-West Rail, and it could be fixing the subway system. Where are we at in terms of what a rural school district like ours might see from this estimated $1.5 billion or more dollars?
So that is part of the governor's effort moving forward to increase the transportation reimbursement. Talk is that they're going to increase that transportation reimbursement to 100%, which would be fantastic for our communities like ours, rural districts. And the other part of it is the general funding. They're working on other initiatives as well. Part of that is for rural, aid.
You're good.
I think it's the rural aid initiative and giving money through that. So we were hopeful that this budget was going to be, put forward with a little bit more of those things in it, but understanding it was her first budget and that there was not a lot of time. As we're moving forward, we're seeing a movement towards that, and we're hopeful that when next year's budget rolls around, those are going to be things in there. Because another piece of this is there are one-time funds in here now from COVID, like ESSER funds and things that a lot of communities have already used up. Mohawk Trail was careful and it still has about 900,000 of that we're using to offset expenses coming into FY24. And then our hope by using those funds for FY24 is that we're going to be able to maintain some of our other grant money, our school choice money, and our rural aid money, that's going to help us in FY25. A lot of districts are already at that clip now and falling off of that, but we are confident as we're moving into 25 that we're not at that clip and that we're not going to be at that clip if we can continue to move things the way we are.
Thank you. I see no one here on Article 6. Any other? Mr. Pless. Did you get nice?
Phil Pless, Cape Street, proud parent of a 2007 Mohawk grad. I appreciate the program, the presentations that have been made, all the work. We've got a lot better explanation this year than most years. This is the budget and how it works. You've answered a lot of my questions, so I'll get to my other points. I'm very encouraged by the energy and seems to be going on in the district and a lot of programs, especially at the elementary level. But I'm equally, if not more, discouraged by the 288 students only at Mohawk. That is scary. You've interviewed families and students that have left. Have those results been made public? Why are all these students just to Frontier? We're losing dozens of students to Frontier. That's scary. We've come out of 15 years of a bully superintendent that has made life difficult in the district. There's been a lot of discussion about bullying on the student level. There has not been the discussion of bullying on the staff and faculty level. And that's when I am most discouraged when I hear from parents and students that they cannot speak up because their child is then picked on by the teacher in the class, that a coach does not feel that student is really injured or needs medical attention. I have not heard anybody address these issues that have been going on for decades and have gotten worse and was given permission over the last 15 years to perpetuate it. That has got to change. Busing, it'd be great if it got to 100%, but does that also include special needs busing? My understanding is it doesn't. I've asked about creative solutions to busing. Different ideas, and I'm told that the state has rejected every creative proposal that has gone out there. How do we get the state to work with us? And I'm thrilled to hear that there's another sustainability study, and I'm curious to see how that differs from the last 3 or 4 that we've done talking about this problem. So my question is basically, what are the results of these exiting surveys? Why have we lost so many people? How do we get them back or make sure it doesn't continue to happen? And what are we doing about the bullying? Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Pless. Before Mr. Latte addresses that, Mr. Wellman will. I just want to point out, I spoke to Cheryl Stanton, our superintendent, as recently as 7:30 last night, and she said she wishes that she was here. I think she's in Buckland right now. She's got Plainfield, she's got Heath all today. So she apologized. She said she was going to come no matter what. She just couldn't predict the time for the same reasons. We can't predict the time. Mr. Wellman, would you like to address Mr. Pless's concern?
Thank you. So just speaking specifically on a couple of items, Jen and I both sit on this communication subcommittee, and so we are working to have more transparent communication that will go out, as well as I know that the school is really working to be more transparent in their messaging out to families. One of the challenges that we have is sort of a self-perpetuating problem, in that as more families choice their children out, our programs suffer because, as we saw this year, we didn't have enough students for our basketball teams, and so we're working with some of the other communities, Greenfield being one of them, to allow our students to continue to play and to have enough population to bring teams together. But that is a problem that we are looking to address, and I see the sheriff just walked in, which is wonderful. But we do have an issue where, as more families are leaving, some of our programs are suffering. So we are working as a committee to really focus on how can we get further family engagement, how can we continue to encourage our families to stay engaged and to keep their children in the district, as well as looking at some of the information that we got from the sustainability study and seeing how we can address some of the items that were raised there. Thank you.
Thank you. Superintendent Stanton, I just told them you weren't here because you don't care about us. I just finished that. Because you like Buckland and Plainfield and Heath more than us. So, where's Mr. Pless? Mr. Pless, could you summarize for the superintendent a short version, and I will get to you, of what you just asked? After he congratulated the district for his preparation.
Thank you, guys. Welcome, Cheryl. My two questions were, what have been the results of the surveys of exiting families and students to other districts? What has been the main reasons we're losing so many? And my other one was, what is being done about bullying, not student bullying, but faculty and staff bullying of students and families?
All yours, Superintendent. Oh, thank you. You're going to take away that dedication, aren't you? Is there any objection to the superintendent who is not a registered voter of Ashfield speaking? Hearing none, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. Thank you for the question. With regards to the survey results and what we are finding out about why families are leaving, there's quite a variety in the responses. Some are convenience, closer to work, closer to after-school care. So that's a factor. Another factor is a perception of a lack of academic rigor. And that's something that we've been really working hard on communicating to our towns and to our families. The idea that we do not have advanced placement coursework. We actually have 13 advanced placement course offerings for students. We have AP Computer Science, Calculus, Chemistry. So, students are able to take a rigorous coursework. 76% of our students complete advanced coursework as designated by DESE, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. That's a significant statistic for us because we have been working to make sure that all of our students have access to high quality education. And if you look at our surrounding districts are much lower. Their percent of students taking advanced coursework is down in the 40s. So we are living out loud our commitment to equity and opportunity for all of our students. So the second question with regards to bullying or bullying either amongst, I'd ask for a clarification actually. Is it bullying staff or bullying staff student?
I've heard too many stories from families, parents, and students that are afraid to speak up, that are afraid to even email a teacher or an administrator about an issue, or a coach, or the athletic director, of a variety of issues. This isn't one of them. It's just too many stories. And then that teacher will go up to a student, stand next to that student in class, and point out, it was lovely that your parent wrote to me, and make a fool of that student. Coaches that don't believe a child's injured. There's a culture there that really has to change. And whether that showed up on the survey, I don't know. But I have certainly heard that as an issue from exiting families.
Thank you for those comments. What we do have in place, should any student or family or staff member feel that administration or a teacher has not appropriately responded to a concern, is a complaint form that we use. In addition, we have a bullying complaint process that we use. Embedded in both of those is a directive that no student or family member or community member who comes forward with a concern should ever feel that as a result of that complaint that there is any Thank you. That there is any retribution based on that complaint. That's in our policy and in our procedure, but we are all human beings. We do, I think, sometimes perceive differently the same situation, and it is our intent as administrators to make sure that we're creating the safest, most inclusive environment so that all of our children and staff, families, and communities feel like they belong. And I think it gets back to your first point, which is why are our families leaving? I'm not sure we have yet the culture where every single family, every single student, and every single person in our communities feel like they belong. And that's what we're working towards.
Thank you. Zach.
Alexandra Osterman, 925 Conway Road. So I just wanted to say, as a parent, my daughter Abby is in the 6th grade at Sanderson and Katie's in 8th grade at Mohawk. And I've been really impressed with the school district. And I think I would agree with what Phil said about the previous administration. I've seen a real positive change with Superintendent Stanton and Principal Buckland at Mohawk. I have gone to teachers with issues and have been met with a lot of respect and good interactions. So I think part of the issue with community negativity around Mohawk is that there's positive changes have happened, but it hasn't trickled out to people being able to see what's happening there. I'm serving on the LEC at Mohawk and the OAC, the Outdoor Advisory Committee. I see a lot of great creative thinking. I went to private school my entire life, and some of the teachers at Mohawk could be teaching at Northfield Mount Hermon. There's really good creative teaching happening. So I just wanted to speak on behalf of the school. I think there's good things happening there.
Okay, it is 11:15. We never want to stifle discussion. Is there any more discussion? We're on Article 6, school expenses. This has been recommended by the Finance Committee, 5-0 to 0. Any further discussion, questions, comments, contributions? Are we ready to vote on Article 6? All those in favor of Article 6 as moved, this is raised and appropriated. Say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you. Article 7. Mr. Wellman.
Moderator, I move that the town will vote to amend the Mohawk Trail Regional School District District Agreement as written in Article 6, or 7.
Is there a second? Second, Mr. Goodgen? Who seconded it to the right? Mr. Goodgen, thank you. Okay, the Finance Committee takes no position on these three articles, is that correct? 7, 8, and 9, right?
Officially, the Finance Committee has not taken a position on these articles, specifically because we reviewed the changes on the evening we were taking our votes on whether to recommend each article within the town warrant. And we had some questions specifically about how this equation modification would affect vocational students. Those questions have since been answered. And while we have not had a meeting to change our recommendation, I've spoken to each Finance Committee member individually, and I can say that they all plan to vote in favor as a citizen of these articles.
But for the record, the open meeting law is intact and happy because they did not meet in unposted fashion, but they just informed us as individual citizens. They each, unanimously, I guess, are supporting Article 7, amendments to the district agreement. Who wishes to explain anything? We all understand, we have read that Shelburne voted against this. It has to be a unanimous decision, right? Would you like to speak to this, Superintendent? Why don't you use a mic that doesn't, I think that mic is bullying you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Moderator. So the regional agreement changes in front of you today really came out of discussions that were started back in November and December at the Budget Subcommittee and really reflect the district's strategic plan initiative of becoming very transparent in our budget office and using effective systems to drive our budget development, and also to understand enrollment. So bear with me. School choice, as was part of our discussion just a minute ago, we have been looking and taking a deep dive into school choice and also into our budget office and our systems for enrollment and producing budget. Those two things have come together at the Budget Subcommittee, and we recognize now that the regional agreement is out of date with the current trend in enrollment, and let me explain. Prior to 1993, there was not the issue of school choice, and since the development of charter schools. And so the regional agreement states that apportionment of the costs for educating students will be apportioned based on students from the town that are enrolled in a district school. And so right now, if we just looked at school choice, we have 116 students in the district that are not in a town or a Mohawk Trail Regional School District school. And so those 116 students are not being apportioned to their towns. And so the Budget Subcommittee felt that as an issue of equity and an issue of bringing the regional agreement into alignment with what is currently happening throughout the state in terms of enrollment, where families have the opportunity to use school choice or charter school for their children, that the regional agreement needs to reflect that in how we count students. And so instead of using where a town resident student is attending in the district, the regional agreement would be amended to use foundation enrollment. And foundation enrollment is what the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education uses as the enrollment number for students that the town is financially responsible for. And I'll leave it at that. Apparently I'm having a bad mic day.
Mr. Markin, who is a member of the Budget Subcommittee and also a member of our Finance Committee. Please.
So I've been Martin 597 Bells Road. So I have participated in all of the Budget Subcommittee meetings, including on this issue. So the situation is that if a town, including ours, could choice out all of its students, our assessment would be 0.
I'm sorry, man, could you put it up to your mouth?
So should a town choice out all of its students, it would have 0 assessment, but the district would still have to pay for all of those students, and the other towns would pay. So it's purely a fairness issue, and when it first came up, it was very clear that it should be fairly done, and these 3 articles will solve that problem. I'm very much in favor of it. I don't believe, by the way, it has a negative impact on our town. However, I think it was my idea, that we keep the 4-year rolling average using the older numbers, and the 5th year, even if you all don't know, it's done as a 5-year rolling average. So the new number will be the foundational number. So over 5 years, it'll wash itself out. So the impact on the town immediately is not very great. And I recommend you all vote for 7, 8, and 9.
Thank you. I just have a question. My understanding with respect to Shelburne Falls, wasn't the content of the articles, it was the timing that made them vote no? And
Yep, Shelburne held their town meeting, and as did Keith just a minute ago. And Keith and Shelburne both are very open to the discussion, but would like more time to review. And I would say that for Heath, they did not have as strong a representation at our budget subcommittee, so they were a little bit behind.
Don't come on over here, too far from this.
Oh, okay. So they were a little bit farther behind in the information that Mr. Markins is able to bring to you all today. And in Shelburne, the same. The communication didn't seem to get back to the select board and the finance committee, and they had just requested more time to review.
Before you go, Superintendent, I have a question as a citizen. I really don't know the answer to this. If Shelburne decided to have a special town meeting and approve it, is the year a calendar year or fiscal year? How much time do we have to get unanimity among the 8 towns? Do you know the answer to that question? Does anyone know the answer to that question?
I do. I have to say that you reminded me of that question, and in preparing all of town meeting, I did not get that answer, so I apologize. My understanding is that a special town meeting could be held within the year of the town meeting, but I will confirm that and get that back to you.
So that means at the end of the fiscal year, I think, by June 30th, if they don't vote it, these changes can't be adopted until next.
Correct. That is correct.
Okay. I don't know if that's right or not, but that's what I'm guessing. Other questions, comments, discussion? Nice and tight to the microphone, please.
Dave Meyer, 472 West Road. My question is, so you said a lot of stuff that didn't really mean anything to me, but so we have a lot of, how many students does Ashfield have in the district, and what you're changing, what will that affect? So if we have 100 students attending, we're paying $2.9 million for the education. But if you base it on the 110 that are going to Frontier and Bement and what have you, now we have 200. So what are we basing our this base that you're talking about? And the gentleman that spoke last on the finance committee said it's not going to affect us immediately, which means it's going to affect us big time at some point. And so I just want to understand how we're going to deal with that.
Mr. Markin.
So, I don't know if your numbers are exactly correct, but all the towns are facing the same thing. So all the towns which have students that choice out, those students aren't in the formula today, and so they'll all be in the formula beginning with that first year. And so I'm not sure exactly, it's not going to increase our assessment now. The math that Tom did said we went from 12% to 14%, so a nominal change. I think the superintendent said it was different than that. It's just purely that all the students in all the districts, within the district, will have to be counted. So Ashfield's not alone, everybody's had that exact same situation. But we're going to pay for all of our kids, no matter where they go.
Okay, I just keep carping about this. There are people here who are hard of hearing. Those who are using the microphone, put it close to your mouth. We're recording this, we want to make sure that it gets recorded properly. So please use the microphone so people can hear us. Thank you.
If I can clarify, there are 116 students in the district that are using school choice. That does not include students who are using charter. When we talk about foundation enrollment, it excludes students who are homeschooled or students who are going to private school. So I want to be very clear, the comment about BEMET wouldn't apply because BEMET is a private school, okay? So for Ashfield, the current enrollment that we used for this FY24 budget, which uses the apportionment formula of where the town's students go in district, right? What we affectionately like to say is, where is their butt in a seat in our district? That number is, for Ashfield, 118 students. Okay? If we were to use foundation enrollment, the number of students would have been 135. But to be clear, to the point of the select board of it not having a significant impact is because Ashfield is not the only town in the district. All of the towns have not been portioned using foundation enrollment. So we have not captured the 116 school choice students and the charter students for any town and apportioned them to the town in which they reside.
Thank you, Madam Superintendent. Mr. Markin.
So, and just a clarification, what we got concerned about as a finance committee is about the VOC students, because you'll see we're voting the VOC students separately, and in fact the vocational students are pulled out of that foundational number. So we were concerned there would be a double dip, and the formula made sure that there is not a double dip.
I just want to point out our representative, Natalie Blake, is in the room. And I know, Representative, you have made AIDS rural schools one of your sort of big projects. I don't know if you have any comments about, she has none. If you do, please let me know and I will certainly call on you. We are on Article 7. Mr. Cole, nice and tight to that microphone, please.
David Cole, 183 Phillips Road. So I just want to better understand what is going on here. So it sounds like the more students in Ashfield that go to charter schools outside of district, or what was the other, or choice, means that right now we are essentially paying less than we sort of should because if we have a large number of students. So if we voted in favor of this, then we would be paying more for those because we would be compensating for those students like my own that go to Four Rivers. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay, I'm in favor of this.
Thank you. We never want to dampen discussion. It is 11:30. We're on Article 7. Is there any further discussion, comments? contributions with respect to Article 7 that deals with amending the district agreement as has been discussed. Anybody? Are we ready to vote? All in favor of Article 7 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One. Any abstention? Well, we know it's not unanimous, there's one opposed. Thank you. Article 8. Is there a motion? Mr. Wellman, nice and tight to the microphone.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. I move that the town will vote to amend the Mohawk Trail Regional School District Regional District Agreement Amendment Number 2 as written.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Carter. Would you like to speak to this, Madam Superintendent? Or Mr. Markins, or who wants to speak to Article 8? Is there anything you can contribute to our understanding?
Only that it is the same premise applied to a different part of the regional agreement.
Questions, comments, contributions, discussion? We ready to vote? All in favor of Article 8 as moved by Mr. Wellman, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? One. It carries by majority. Article 9, is there a motion? Mrs. Markin.
Article 9, Mohawk Regional Agreement Amendment 3. To see if the town will vote to amend the Mohawk Trail Regional School District Regional District Agreement by striking the following language contained in section 15, effective date. Should I go on to read more of it?
And replacing it.
And replacing said language with the following. This amended agreement shall take effect in accordance with its terms, followed approval by all member towns and by the Commissioner of Elementary and Secondary Education on July 1st, 2023, and shall supersede the prior district agreement, including any prior amendments. Nothing in this amended agreement shall affect the apportionment of assessment to member towns prior to fiscal year 2025.
Second by Mr. O'Leary. Thank you, School Committee Member Jenny Martin. Anything to contribute to this, Superintendent Stanton?
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. It is just to update the date, so the execution date.
To what?
To begin the change in the apportionment in the regional agreement.
The following date is to begin the apportionment. Okay, we're good. Discussion. Questions? Comments? Are we ready to vote? Oh, Mr. Cranston, please. Get close to that mic.
Doug Cranston, 326 Square Drive, Ashfield. For several years now, I've always thought that what has happened to our schools, our private schools, is that the monies that are also giving us our private schools are being used for the schools, what do they call it? What's the other type of school? Charter schools. Is this what we've been talking about all these last 3 articles?
So I don't think so. I think that you are referring to our legislative advocacy at the state level that charter schools should have a different funding source than what is currently done. So that's a different conversation. This is simply about how we, as a district, apportion the costs of the children amongst the 8 towns that make up Mohawk Trail. But we're working on the charter school funding issue at the state level with Rep. Blaze, for sure.
Okay, so for all these years, we have been told, or I've been told, that we are losing monies from our private schools because these same monies is being apportioned to charter schools. And I'm just...
You mean our public schools?
You mean our public schools?
That is, okay. I think the correction is that, yes, in our public school systems, we are losing money to charter schools. Because when Chapter 70 funding comes to the towns, we are assessed an amount based on students that are attending charter schools and choice. So we get a big bunch of money in Chapter 70. Right out of the gate, we lose money and are assessed for students that go to charter and assessed for students that use choice. So you are correct. Our public schools lose money to charter enrollment.
And I don't think that should happen. Thank you.
And the legislature is aware, the governor is aware, and it is a point that we are making as we advocate for rural schools, because in rural communities, enrollment is critical, and every single student that we lose is a cost, and we need every single student.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Cranston. Thank you, Superintendent. Anybody else? Are we ready to vote on Article 10? 9. Thank you. He's ready for 10. All those in favor of Article 9 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Thank you so much. Thank you, Superintendent. We really appreciate your presence here. Article 10.
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Goodgen.
I move the town vote to set stipends and compensation for all elected officials of the town. Moderator, board of assessors, board of health, constable, select board, school committee, and tree warden. As provided by Mass General Law, Chapter 41, Section 108, we made effective as of July 1st, 2023, as contained within the budget.
Second.
Second by Mr. Carter. This has been recommended 5-0-0 by our Finance Committee. You want to? This is what we do every year, right?
Same thing. Yep.
Same thing. Any questions, comments? Anybody want to amend it so the moderator gets more money? Anybody? No. We ready to vote? All in favor of Article 10 as moved by Mr. Goodgen, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Article 11, do I hear a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums to fund general government expenses for fiscal year beginning July 1, 2023, the total of which is $563,604.
And your motion includes the table that we're looking at.
Second.
And it's seconded by Mr. Goodgen. You want to talk to us about general government expenses, Mr. Carter?
Yeah, there's a few points in here. Salaries and wages have gone up this year. We worked on it this winter, trying to come up with the drastic times that we're in as far as inflation and living expenses. And we came up with a formula. We had been going with 75 cents an hour across the board, trying to keep everybody up. But this year we did 2%. We took 2% and then added the 75 cents. So it was, there was a little bonus in there to try to have people keep up with inflation. You can look in here, and we've alluded to it a couple of times, that we like to change what account things are in just to keep everybody off base. Not really, but we talked about not having accounting services as a FERCog expense, since we're getting away from that. So that expense for accounting services is now up in the general government line item. The new account position I already talked about. Also, some of the in data and contracted services. Those have gone up about $4,000 just on our IT contracts. It's amazing how much all of that costs. I'm old enough to remember when we got the first computer in town hall and how much it was going to save us, and I don't know that I've seen any of that yet. But for us to communicate with the rest of the world, I'm sure everybody here understands how important it is to have that. Tax title expenses are up. We start to intend pursuing some takings where they're needed, and I don't think we've put hardly any money into tax takings for probably the last 3 or 4 years. Last time we had to set some money aside for those sorts of situations, it's lasted quite a long time. So you can kind of look through there if you've got questions, but we tried to accurately reflect what the expenses were going to be.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Discussion. Mr. Kippen, Mr. Myers, form a line. Anybody else who wishes to speak? Go behind Mr. Myers, please. Mr. Kippen, nice and close to the mic so we can all hear you.
Yeah, thank you. Ken Kippen, Spruce Corner. I just wondered what the items are for justifying the Conservation Commission expenses.
Excellent question. I probably should have mentioned that earlier. The Conservation Commission, right, volunteers, right, in town that are willing to be appointed to that position. There were times previously when it wasn't anywhere near as complicated as it is now. Now that the easily developed land has been developed, and now there's questions about any lot that gets more complicated, and all the time. And the increase in that is we're working on. We haven't found that person yet, but to find a conservation expert, a consultant, someone that can work with the Conservation Commission that has experience and hopefully works in a number of different towns, to make a full-time position and be available to supply them with some expertise.
Follow up, Mr. Kippen.
With that,
Nice and tight to the mic. I'm sorry to carpet.
so would the $11,172 be allocated to someone who could guide the commission professionally?
Some professional who could help them with their tasks to give them that kind of guidance, yes.
So it's salary?
Correct.
Thank you, Mr. Kippen. Mr. Meyer.
In these, Dave Meyer, 472 West Road. In these amounts that I see here, this is just pay. Does this include all the benefits, all of the other costs?
What I refer to as payroll burden. Right? So payroll burden, as far as benefits and those sorts of things, are in another article towards the end. That it'll say benefits. We'll be talking about benefits, health insurance, so on and so forth.
Okay. Yeah. So, is there a way for someone like me to say, okay, I'm just going to take like the first one there, right? Accountant salary, right? $25,000 plus everything. So, is there a way for me and everyone else here to find out that it's $25,000 plus $20,000 of benefits. So when people look at the thing and say, oh, they only make $25,000, but they really are making $45,000, so those benefits aren't part of the salary. So how can we get that?
There is absolutely a way for you and anyone else in here to know that. Is to spend every Monday night from January through May with the select board and the finance committee and drill down on it. But what you can figure is there's a difference between this is how I generalize it. There's a difference between what a person gets paid and what they cost. Right? There is a cost to having employees, and I know you know that as well as I know that, right? But that shouldn't affect what they get paid, right? We supply benefits. That is an obligation that we've taken on, right? That is when we hire people, we supply them with this package. So to kind of mix those together, I don't say you're wrong, but I think that's misrepresenting it.
Thank you.
But there is absolutely a way for anyone to learn this.
Actually, I just want to supplement Tom's answer because it sounded like he's being snide. He's not. If you look at this table, if you look at this warrant, and I began with a little thank you, a couple hours ago, to the people that are sitting up here. There's an incredible amount of thought and work and preparation that goes into running our town, keeping us safe, keeping our trucks moving, etc., etc. And it can't all be reflected. This is a funding request that is different than the benefits request, and there's a reason for that. So, your question is a fair one, Mr. Myers. It'd be really nice if we could just see bottom lines, but it doesn't always work that way, and it's putting even more demands on. We just passed a stipend, I think it's $1,250 Carter gets $1,500 a year. Yeah, big bucks. And there's only so much time that our volunteers can put into doing that. Having said that, we deserve to know what we're paying for, and it's in here. Once again, thank you all for all the work that's here. Please, Mr. Nelson. You're not 16 anymore when you wanted to be able to vote.
Yes. Aaron Nelson, Belleville Road. I'm speaking as chair of the Conservation Commission. And Mr. Carter explained very well the need for the increase. I just wanted to add that in addition to the complexity, we've also seen a dramatic rise in how many permits we're having to deal with. Throughout the 2010s, we had maybe 6 to 8 permits a year, and now it's 24, 26. And the regulations on the state side that we have to deal with run many hundreds of pages. So it's a situation that a lot of towns are in, and that's why we're looking at partnering with some of our neighboring towns to get professional help.
And with all seriousness, those of us who are overweight, bald, and gray, we're so grateful to have you working for us. Thank you so much. Really. Yes, Mr. Cole.
David Cole, Phillips Road. I do plan to vote in favor of this, but with some concern that the data contracted services is now close to $90,000, which just seems outrageous to me as somebody who works in technology and also who has personal experience working with our consultants. I'm not impressed at all. And I think that this is an example where municipal costs can get really out of hand because we don't have any expertise in town to know whether we're getting our money's worth. And the competition in the valley for those services is probably relatively slim. I don't know exactly what the answer is, but I really want to encourage our town to spend some time reviewing that expense and maybe thinking strategically about how we can keep that under control, because that's the largest line item on this whole list here, and I think it's way more than we should be spending.
And for people who don't know, as a citizen and on behalf of the Ashfield News as a reporter, Mr. Culp does come to every Monday night. Is there any other discussion? Oh, yes, ma'am.
Hi,
Deanna Sears, South Street. I just have a question about the legal expense. It's almost double. I'm just wondering if there's something behind that.
Please, Mr. Carter.
Yeah, great question. Our town council that Ashfield has had for decades now is finally increasing her rates. And not significantly. I mean, from $125 to $150 an hour. You can rest assured that we don't spend a lot of time with her even at the $125 rate. But on the docket going forward, the word came through, the planning board is going to be working on some by-law review and so forth, where they would want to be using town council to a higher extent in the next fiscal year. So we budgeted that in. We had the opportunity to budget that in. We have a great track record on legal expense at the end of the year of always having money left over. Matter of fact, our department heads, this is a good time to mention that our department heads are not, I know there's a stereotype out there that in government and so forth that they say, oh my gosh, I got $10,000 left in my account, I've got to spend it. I do not believe that is at all the situation that happens in the town of Ashfield with any of our department heads, and when we're looking at accounts, that they feel that they have to spend it. That's why we end up being in such good financial shape. I mean, we got certified with $590,000 worth of free cash. The only reason that free cash shows up is because we don't spend every account out dry just because it's budgeted. But excellent question. There was a reason for upping that. Right at the moment, we don't have anybody being sued, but the day is young. The day is young. Mr. Moderator.
Please, Mr. Carter.
The town administrator, to go back to Mr. Cole on data contracted services, there has been a lot thrown into that, David, that, and for everybody to know, besides just our regular data processing, the accountants' data processing and their contract with Patriot Software, the tax mapping, one of the big ones, the town IT support. Actually, the town IT support, which I believe Mr. Culp was looking at, that's only $22,000 of it. Accounting software, the payroll system that we use, the cash management systems, hell, copiers and telephones are thrown into this account now. So that's what makes that account look so large. And these are the single little bitty lines that we look at all winter when we're putting together what you're seeing today.
Thank you, Mr. Carter. Other questions or comments on Article 11? Oh, Ms. Schwartz.
Celia Schwartz, Dearborn. I just want to say that I appreciate how you structured these raises, which is 2% and 75 cents an hour, so that it helps people who are paid less get a better increase. So thank you.
Thank you for that. Good save, Mr. Coe. Anybody else? Questions, comments? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 11 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Article 11 passes unanimously. Is there a motion on Article 12?
Mr. Moderator.
Yes, Mr. Lennox.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate or transfer from available funds.
Whoop, raise and appropriate?
I did, oh, no. Mr. Moderator.
Start again.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate $381,190 to fund public safety expenses.
Great motion. Is there a second?
Second.
I think Mr. Carter. Please explain to us.
Sure. So some of these reflect the salary increases that Mr. Carter just talked about. across the board for town employees. Fire department expenses have contributed the largest chunk to this increase in this article, and this is due to the aging fleet that we have. We're going to be talking later on today about trying to buy a new fire truck, but maintaining the two 30-year-old fire trucks that we have is expensive. So that's where the largest portion of this percentage increase comes from. We're also adding a little bit for additional firefighters and for increased training in the fire department.
Great. And this too has been recommended by our Finance Committee unanimously. Discussion. Ready to vote? Public safety? Yeah? Okay. All those in favor of Article 12 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Madam Clerk, Article 13, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Goodman.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums to fund public work expenses for the fiscal year being July 1st, 2023.
Second.
Seconded by Mr. Carter. We're all ears.
All right. So, one point in this is that we did bump the highway superintendent's salary as basically a longevity bonus. Some of that has to do with just, he does such a great job. We just like to see him stick around and, not retire for as long as possible. There's a vacant position in the department that has been reduced to part-time help as needed, resulting in some cost savings there. Most of the other increases are standard increases. There's addition, so we put off this year getting an additional truck, and so we're putting more money into basically repair funds to have for existing trucks. The select board also doubled the amount of money for gravel and dirt roads to help improve the conditions of these roads. As this different years we have major problems, but it's one of those things we're always trying to improve, throw money at.
And the total in your motion was the $908,353 which we're looking at. That's okay. We got it. So, once again, our Finance Committee, I just sort of throw that out there. Our Finance Committee has worked on this, and after a collaboration with our Select Board, has offered these monies as one that could be recommended to you. So once again, every time I say they recommend it unanimously, that's a product of a lot of thought and work, and I just want to remind us of that. So thank you for that. Discussion. Questions from Mr. Goodgen? Or anyone else? Yes, please. Whoops.
No, ladies first. Ladies, and I can say ladies, yes.
Ladies first. You're not going to be a superintendent in East Hampton.
I'm not baited by that comment.
Okay.
I want to say about the highway department manager, especially of
Your name and where you're at?
Molly Bevy, Bear River Road.
Thank you.
The highway department has done a superior job this year, I think, of maintaining the dirt roads, especially. And I'm thinking about Gray Road, which I traveled quite a bit. John Marsh Road in Ashfield has taken quite a beating this year because of the detour from Shelburne Falls Road, from Conway. And I'm wondering whether the town has received any assistance from Buckland or Conway, I guess it would be Buckland, for an ongoing impact on that road.
That I'm aware of. So I'm getting a big no from our highway team over there.
So it's all been up to Ashfield to basically handle that additional traffic.
Good question. I think I thought of that question. Any other questions, comments, discussion? Yes, of course.
Yes, Tom Lori Jemmer, 392 West Road, and I just wanted to say, I don't know if Tom Poisson's here, but
Tom, would you stand up? There's our highway superintendent, Tom Poisson.
I want to thank Tom, because we, on West Road, in prior years, have had really duress. I mean, genuine concern about medical emergencies and getting down the road. And I just want to thank you and keep up the good work, stay aggressive with it, because it did make a difference. I know maybe the frost wasn't as deep this year, I don't know, but I can see that the sections you've attended to are better, and I just appreciate it because it means a lot, not only to me, but I know other people on our road.
And as I said, I won't tolerate any applause.
Dave Meyer, 472 West Road. I want to just echo what Tom just said. Thanks, Tom. You took care of our road this year. You redid a giant stretch of it, and glad we also got a little extra money to keep up with it, and I just want to say thank you as well.
Oh, one more. Mr. Bennett.
George Bass was plugging the road and to join with the others in thanking Tom for the good work he did in keeping Bug Hill Road pretty much negotiable this
Thank you, Mr. Bass. Anybody else? We all thank you, Mr. Poisson. And your crew, by the way.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, comments, questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 13 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Is there on Article 14?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums to fund health and human services expenses for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, for a total of $73,326.
Thank you. Is there a second? Mr. Lanning seconds that motion. Please talk to us.
Well, this will likely be the last year that we'll have a line that will say senior center expense. It'll probably say collaborative senior district expense. And remember, we're looking for a volunteer to be on the board of managers for the new senior district. We may close the doors until we get one. The other increases in these lines, even if there are any increases in these lines, just reflect very marginal expense increases.
Mr. Nelson, you don't want to work for the senior center? I guess the answer is. Discussion. Oh, once again, recommended by our Finance Committee unanimously. Discussion, questions? Great. All in favor of Article 14 as moved by Mr. Carter for this total of $73,326, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That's unanimous. Article 15.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Lanning.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate funds for the following sums to fund culture and recreational expenses totaling $115,148.
Is there a second?
Second.
I think that was who was that? Mr. Goodgen seconded it. Very good. Talk to us about our cultural and recreational expenses.
So, as you can see on the chart here, these are the expenses for our library and parks and for maintaining Ashfield Dam. The library expenses, they were requesting more money this year because they're trying to have 2 staffers on at all times instead of 1 person working by themselves. Not only is it a safety issue, but it should increase service in the library. Libraries becoming more and more popular over time. More and more people are using the library, and having 2 staffers will greatly increase their capacity there to serve the people. On the Lake Dam project, that's pretty much completed. Vegetation control on the new dam is going to be increasing. We're not allowed to let woody vegetation grow on the dam, so it's going to have to be taken care of annually, so there's going to be a little bit more expense for that.
Thank you. This is recommended by the Finance Committee unanimously as well. Our Library Board of Trustees Chair, Esther Kohler.
Yes, I just wanted to, Esther Kohler, 243 Main Street. I have a little laryngitis, so bear with me, but just echoing what Todd said, increasing our staff to 2 staff members at all times. We feel that it's a model that most libraries are moving towards. Mainly, our main concern is safety. It's a big building with 2 levels, and we also have an outdoor space. And when we're open, we often have programming. So there's a lot going on. The library is our community hub, so we want to make sure that it's staffed for everyone's needs. And also, I just wanted to add that in the last year, our circulation has increased 50%. So there's a need for having people to suit your needs. And also, our director, Sarah, does a wonderful job of applying for grants, community collaboration, and programming. So giving her time to do administrative tasks. In the last 3 years, Sarah has brought in over $50,000 in grants. So I think this is money well spent. You know, it's an extra $6,000, and I think it's money well spent for everyone's needs. Thank you.
I just want to add, I think her application for those grants is without being asked to do so. I think she, on her own volition, looks for money for us, and we have authorized our board to continue to accept those grants. So we're talking about our park, our library, our dam. Yes, please.
Jane Bucklow, March Road. As a senior who's taken a lot of advantage of Sarah in the library, I just want to say she just is willing to offer herself and her training anytime you ask. And I've been one of the beneficiaries of her great help, so I totally support this motion.
Thank you. Ms. Carroll.
Ricky Carroll, Main Street. Can you talk, just if you know the answer, how the weeds or rough trees are going to be removed at the lake? Is that by hand or by chemical?
Oh.
Okay.
At least at this point in time, that's all we've done.
The answer was mowing. The answer was mowing. At least at this time, that's all we know. Thank you for that.
So, if I can clarify.
Oh, please.
So on the I guess it would be eastern slope of the dam. Right now it's grass. It leads down into that swampy area that the culvert was replaced behind Deckers. That's all going to be taken care of by mowing, etc. On the riprap side, where vegetation comes up, the rock, we're not sure if mowing is going to be effective or not. So it could require herbicide.
Yes, Ms.
As in Roundup, the toxic, cancerous stuff Roundup.
You're kidding, right?
I'm not kidding.
Okay, so are we going to have a meeting before any of that is used?
I'm sure that the highway department will consult with the select board. It'll be an open meeting. We haven't made any decisions on that yet.
There's a town bylaw.
Whoops, excuse me. If anybody, I will recognize you in due time. Go ahead, Ms. Carroll, you're
So we're listening to the recommendations from our engineers and how to handle it. If volunteers want to hand pull, that'd be great. That'd be a better solution.
Follow up, Ms. Carroll?
I just wouldn't hate to see something like that happen before it goes before the town for a discussion.
Noted.
Okay, assume our park commissioners would also be involved in that process, right? Bringing it to the town. Mrs. Kohler, you wanted to say something? No? Okay, yes, please.
Tom Murray, Gemma 392 West Road. So you say handful, is this stuff like accessible? Where is this vegetation coming?
It's growing up from underneath the rocks that are on the water-facing side of the dam.
So it's accessible by hand, you're saying? I mean,
Could be.
get enough people?
I think so.
Put out the word, Al.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Appreciate that.
Okay, who's here from the Park Commission? Of course, Ms. Hal. Are you still chair?
Yes.
Okay. Judy Hal, and you will, of course, have an open meeting on this if and when the time comes.
This is not our jurisdiction.
Oh, it's not?
The park commission itself does not typically take care of maintenance.
Okay, I stand corrected.
This is Tom Poisson's
Highway.
jurisdiction.
Yeah.
But I should say that the Park Commission regularly clears out the invasive bittersweet at the beach. That's what we're responsible for.
All right, we're all learning. Any other questions, comments?
Can I just have a follow-up?
Yes, you may, Ms. Carroll.
So I guess my follow-up is, how soon should we be looking out for this announcement?
I'm sorry, is your...
My follow-up just is, how soon should we be looking out for this discussion to happen?
Well, the weeds are starting to grow. It's spring, so it would be during the growing season.
This year?
This year, yes, this year.
Hell no.
The other thing, the other lake-related item that you might be interested in, which is also in this particular article, is for lake weed control. And we haven't budgeted any funding for weed control the invasive weed control in the lake at this point. We're working with some of our volunteers to figure out the best method, and the best non-chemical method is mechanical harvesting. Mechanical harvesting is very expensive and has to be done annually. So if we want to do that, it's going to be a large cost. So that all town residents should be aware of that ask could be coming in the future to control invasive weeds in the lake. If we want a non-chemical solution. Which, it sounds like a lot of people would prefer a non-chemical solution.
Yes.
Yeah, Sally Sasso, Main Street.
I'm sorry, can you get close to the mic?
Sally Sasso, Main Street. So, as somebody who swims in the lake, I would like to know if there are chemicals going in the lake before I choose to swim. That's my comment.
Sure. What we're talking about on the dam maintenance, the chemicals would not be put in the water. Potentially.
Okay. Further discussion, comments? Ms. Carroll, more than twice required. Is there any objection by the meeting for her to speak a third time? Ricky Carroll, okay.
I just have a quick question for the audience. Can I just see a show of hands of how many people are interested in not using chemicals in or around the lake?
Looks like a plurality of the people in the audience. So I think the select board heard the message that before they authorize that, they have a public meeting where people have had the opportunity to apply. Is that right, Mr. Carter?
Mr. Moderator, thank you. Mr. Olenek brought up a great point, right? Is we need to find a solution, right? The key word to me is solution to controlling the growth on that brand new dam. It was only 25 years ago, maybe 30, but I don't think so, that it was $1 million project or a $700,000 project then to rebuild it at that point. After it was built, that dam was very much ignored. and it got a lot of growth, a lot of brush and so forth that weakened that dam. Now, I am all for everybody having a community day every 3 weeks to go pull out whatever they can. But what I saw growing in that riprap last year, you can pull until your guts come out. And you will not stop that root growth that's inside that dam. And then as those roots expand into the dam, it weakens it, right? It's going to make places for the water to travel. It's going to weaken that dam, and it won't be very long, and a multi-million-dollar project or a $1.2 million project will have to be revisited again. We were very, very fortunate, extremely fortunate, to have Ron Kohler work so hard to try to find the funding for this project. It needs a solution. The weed control needs a solution that's going to work. And from my experience and what I see growing in there, pulling it might be great exercise, but it is not going to actually cure the situation as far as keeping that dam sound.
Mr. Kohler.
Since Ron Kohler, 168 Bailey Road, since my name was brought up, yes, the invasives are a big problem. And whatever the solution, I recommend we not spend more than a month or so finding it, because the damage that was done by those invasives, they were just so invasive. They covered the dam. And if we spend a year thinking about this, it'll be out of control. So it's easier to knock it back at this level with whatever methods everyone comes up with, and stay ahead of it, than to let it get ahead of us, because it'll be a phenomenal, expensive problem otherwise.
Thank you, Mr. Kohler. Mr. Kippen. I know a youngster like you doesn't understand. There are old people here who can't hear, so use that microphone close to your mouth. Thank you.
Mr. Carter used the expression, until our guts come out. That's a good reason not to use herbicides. The herbicide Roundup is internationally known now as a poison to the environment. So we have to find a different solution than that. Thank you.
So in answer to that, the first thing everybody thinks of is to use Roundup or some type of glyphosate. But the specialists that we had come in for some meetings and work, there are literally hundreds of other compounds other than that are available to use for that type of weed control. So I would hate to have everyone have the misconception that the only chemical that's available happens to be glyphosate. It's not. But we can tap on specialists that can guide us to the correct material to use and address our concerns, and hopefully it will still be effective.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Mr. Cranston. Well,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, you're up. I'm sorry. I got that wrong here.
You say gentleman first, right?
Yes, sir.
Doug Cranston, 326 River Drive. One of the things that works the best, at least on the outside of the dam, would be not to put stone on it. That way you could go in there with a weed whacker or something of that sort and mow it on a regular basis. Probably with less expense than some others. And on the inside, I don't know what you're going to use in there. Like you say, there might be something that would be less harmful to get the inside. But to walk on that stone and to try to cut the brush out of it, once the brush gets in there, there's no way of getting it out of it. going to be quite a chore. And I just think the more we can grow by hand and not have to use chemicals, probably the better it's going to be too.
And sir, you've been recognized. I just want to point out, I see, come on, please, come on up, that I'm not sure if this is the time or place to completely litigate this complex issue. It's an important issue. Obviously, a lot of people have a lot of passion about this issue, as they should. It is our dam, and it is our health, and we should be concerned about it. I'm just not sure how deeply we can find a solution. Today, we have another, whatever it is, 20 articles plus to contend with, but please.
Yeah, now I have Tom Ray General 392 West Road. I go a little Italian guilty because I've been to the mic more than once, but that's okay. I'm going to say with Mr. Carter, though, he may be, you know, that's the thing, we have rational decisions and then emotional decisions. And I think we have to make compromises upon when I was like, yeah, and I will volunteer to pull the weeds out. But then I'm thinking at my house when I'm pulling weeds out, you kind of pounded sand a little bit. So we got, you got to look at the whole context of it, and to put the resources and money into, I just want to say that Tom brought up something that I didn't even think about to that extent. It sounds good to pull the weeds out, but then it's like, it's just maybe not a realistic way to approach it.
Thank you for that contribution. I'm wondering, I learned about the Park Commission. What about the Conservation Commission? Is that involved in this process? It is not. Mr. O'Leary.
So, I'm glad I got the conversation going. I don't regret that. And I knew Roundup would be an inflammatory word, so yeah. So the plan for the exterior slope is mechanical, right? It is mowing. It is, to your point, Doug, it's mowing. It's not chemical. But on the rock riprap side, we need a solution also.
Got it. Thank you.
And that's what's in this budget, is the $5,000 for that work.
Very good. So this budget, you're being asked, it's the library, it's our park, and it is our dam. So the total that you're being asked to consider is $115,148. That's been recommended by the Finance Committee. Are we ready to vote on Article 15? We are. All those in favor of Article 15 say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, abstentions? That passes unanimously, Madam Clerk. Article 16.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Goodgen.
I move the town to vote to raise and appropriate the following sum to fund debt service expenses for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023. And that is highway garage debt for $66,425 and broadband debt interest for $55,927 for a total of $122,352.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Carter. Mr. Goodgen, talk to us.
So this is just pretty standard, especially the highway debt is, paying for the highway garage until 2040 or whatever at this point. It's just 45, sorry. So this is just the debt, the interest that we incur on that every year, and that's the same with the broadband debt interest. We're hoping to get rid of that line a little bit quicker than that. The interest for broadband did increase a bit last year because of interest rates going up. Over the next couple of years at this point, we're trying to, depending on how things go, we're getting a plan in place to try to pay this off as quickly as possible. We're going to start having federal grant money come in, which we haven't received yet, so we'll start to be able to put some big chunks of money down on that debt, and that will reduce our interest rate and get off as quick as we can.
This too has been recommended by the Finance Committee. Questions, comments, discussion?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Carter.
I think it's interesting to note that on the broadband interest, that a year ago, we were talking about, we had about 1.8 million. I mean, I don't have the exact number, but I'm pretty close. We had about 1.7, 1.8 million dollars out there. And we appropriated less than $6,000 for the interest on it. And now we have $1.2 million and we're appropriating $55,000. So there's the effect of how much interest has moved in the last year. Fortunately, we're going to make a deep dive, as we promised, to pay this debt down. The further we pay it down, hopefully the lower our interest will be, but we finance that on one-year notes. And so what we have out now at 5.5%, I believe, roughly, 4.1, will probably be 5.5 or 6% when we bid that out. So fortunately, the principal will be a whole lot less. So, and we'll discuss that.
Mr. Carter, while you're standing up there, I have a question. I recognize myself. What will happen when we do retire this debt? What impact will that have on subscribers and in the town?
It should really reduce subscriber, what our cost is. We'll have to look at those costs and to figure out what exactly, what additional costs. Right now, we have not been setting aside money for replacement or big maintenance fees or anything like that since we have a brand new system. We kind of talked Mr. Culp off the ledge a little bit. Instead of setting aside the money, let's pay off the debt and then we'll spend a few years setting aside a bunch of money and figure out what other costs need to be covered. But yes, there should be subscription rates should be reduced. It'll be great. It'll be great not to have that debt hanging out there so we can move on to whatever the next big project for the town is.
Great. Other questions, comments, discussion about debt service expense in Article 16? Anybody? Ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That too passes unanimously. Article 17, we're almost at the halfway point, almost at 12:30. We're not doing too badly. Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator.
Please.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums to fund ambulance services for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, for a total of $97,768.
Second by Mr. Goodgen. Please talk to us.
It is amazing for the service that we get from the ambulance service, from Highland Ambulance, how little the increase was this year. I don't have the number right in front of me, but I know I was amazed when it came to the budget. I think it was less than $3,000. This cooperative effort amongst the communities has worked extremely well, very well for all of us, and especially anybody, I'm sure would testify to that if they ever had to call the number to get somebody there. So, yes, very small increase, huge service.
Recommended by our Finance Committee that we approve this discussion. Our ambulance service, important part of our civic. Ms. Kohler.
Nina Kohler, 168 Bailey Road. I hate to take up time with personal stories, but I had a severe accident this summer, and those guys were there like that. And they didn't know what they were going to, all they heard was I fell backwards on a rebar. What do you think they were thinking, right? It wasn't as serious as it sounded, or I felt it was serious, and I was terrified. And they were so fast and so efficient and so caring. So thank you, anybody who works on the ambulance. I love them.
and you are so intact. It's great. Any further discussion, comments, questions about our ambulance service? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 17 as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Carries unanimously. Article 18, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Atlantic.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate.
For new microphones, that's what you were going to move, right?
Yeah. For employee benefit expenses below totaling $265,271.
Second.
Okay, there's a second. And discussion, this is what Mr. Myers was asking about earlier.
Exactly. So when you separate out benefits from salary, this is where it lands right here in this article, Mr. Meyer. So this is all, you can read it here through the table, the retirement system costs, workers' comp, unemployment insurance, health insurance for active employees, and retiree health insurance, Medicare, FICA, are all included in this. And if you wanted to separate it out by employee, take the total number, divide it by number of employee and the number of retirees that we have in the system, and that would tell you what the benefits were per employee.
Thank you very much. This too has been recommended by our Finance Committee after due deliberation. Any discussion? You ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 18 as moved by Article 18 is moved by Mr. Atlantic, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Unanimity. Article 19, intergovernmental assessments.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Goodgen.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums to fund intergovernmental assessments for the Franklin Regional Council of Governments for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, for a total of $42,145.
Second?
Second.
Mr. Carter. Please, Mr. Goodgen.
Yeah, so most of the assessments have small changes this year. The biggest one is for accounting services, which has shifted as we're going to be getting those services from somebody else for the next fiscal year, as well as some, funding for accounting software and such.
This has been recommended by our Finance Committee unanimously. Discussion. Okay, we're ready to vote on Article 19. Looks like we are. All in favor of Article 19 as moved by Mr. Goodgen, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously as well. Article 20, Sewer and the Enterprise Fund.
I'm coming forward. This is my big moment.
This is your moment.
Once a year, I get to do this.
Everybody
The most exciting thing.
Who are you?
I am Nancy Hoff from Spruce Corner Road and still a commissioner for the wastewater treatment plant. And the motion is that I move Article 20 as written. The people who pay for it are the ones flushing and showering on the system.
Okay, well, let's get a second first.
Second.
Okay, everybody seconded.
There we go. Because it's big stuff. Everyone wants to be a part of this.
That's right.
So our total is $187,301. This is basically level fund from last year.
Level funded from last year.
Basically.
There you go. And this has been recommended by our Finance Committee. Discussion. Oh, your voice is really compelling. Your moment you shine. All those in favor of Article 20 as moved by Ms. Hopp, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That was a brief moment, Satch. No, we're good. Thank you. All right, keep that. Article 21, Broadband Enterprise Fund. Is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator?
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate transfer from retained earnings or otherwise provide the following sums of money for the Broadband Enterprise Fund for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023 to provide broadband telecommunication services. The revenues of $891,051 and expenses of $891,051.
Is there a second?
Second.
Could you explain, and also for those who don't know, what is an enterprise fund in this particular situation?
So the prior article, that was our first ever enterprise fund that we had in the town of Ashfield when we set up the sewer system, right? Because it serviced the downtown part of the community, but not the entire community. The users would be there. Of course, when the sewer system went in, there was a large expense that had to be apportioned out amongst the users and so forth, and that got set up just fine. It gives us an opportunity to compartmentalize or totally separate from the rest of the town these expenses and revenues. So it doesn't affect what general government will be. The same thing has to do with broadband. This is the Broadband Enterprise Fund, where the funds coming in, not only user fees, but the grants we've mentioned a couple times today, and so forth, can come into that fund, and then you can then get dispersed to cover those expenses.
Very good. Got it?
Got it? Okay. The only talking points we have here is the enterprise fund is operating very effectively. It has enough revenue generated to cover costs and the debt service. If you're happen to be looking at the table on the revenue and expenses, there's $360,000 that's being generated by subscription fees and so forth. $360,000 just to pay down the debt, which is separate from, which is actually separate from the next article.
Right. Right. We have another article on the heels of this issue. Discussion recommended by the Finance Committee. Discussion. No questions? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 21 as moved by Mr. Carter, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That too passes unanimously. I will just interrupt and Jacob. My plan this morning at about 4 in the morning was I was hoping that we would get through Article 29 before we take a break. That will take us revolving funds, and I thought that was a good place to break. Is there anybody who thinks otherwise and you want to break before that or after that? Well, we can deal with it after that then, but everybody's good right now. We're doing well. It's 20 out of 1. So let's move on to Article 22, Broadband Debt Transfer.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter. We got to stop meeting this way.
This is maybe one of my favorite articles. I move that the town vote to appropriate from the Civil Defense broadband line, which is 001-291-5460, so no one's confused. The sum of $36,501.87, and to appropriate from free cash the sum of $200,000 for a total of $236,501.87 towards paying down the broadband debt principal. Period.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Lennox seconds. Please, Mr. Carter.
So that first account, which was marked civil defense, the civil defense broadband line of $36,501.87, this was an account, as soon as we started knowing that we were going to move forward on broadband, every time we had some extra money, we would plug it into an account to try to pay down. We knew we were going to have expenses that the town was associated with. I think this is the last of those accounts that we tucked money away in, and there's this $36,000 left. It was set aside to pay for broadband. We're going to tap on that money to pay the principal down. I'd already mentioned once today that it was a long, hard slog to get certified on free cash, just because of internal stuff in the town office. When it finally came through, even though it was much later than we thought, it was, as far as I can tell, it was historically high free cash, in my memory, of $590,000. And we had some lengthy discussion, not debates necessarily, but discussions with the finance committee on how much of that to put towards this debt, right? We talked about in the prior couple articles ago about how much interest has gone down and trying to escape that. So we came on this, landed on this $200,000 of free cash to additionally pay down. So you can see between the past article, Article 21, where there was 360, and then we're going to pay down nearly $600,000 this next fiscal year on a debt which is somewhere right in the neighborhood of 1.2. And then if we get $200,000 or $300,000 worth of grant money, we'll put that against the debt immediately also. So we're trying to. I'm hoping that grant comes in before November when the note needs to be revolved. So now we guaranteed, or we made the statement when we started broadband that we were going to pay this sucker down as fast as we could, and we're holding to that.
This is recommended by the Finance Committee. Discussion. Buzz Eisenberg, 431 Ashfield Road. We have been so well managed on broadband. We can all remember what it was like to have dial-up service. I previously acknowledged Mr. Cope for coming to every select board meeting on behalf of the Ashfield News. David Cope, would you stand up? You've done such an incredible job. Didn't I say no applause?
Joe Cranston, 326 Drive, Ashfield. I just want to say that I think this is the greatest thing that's ever happened to the town of Ashfield in the last, since I've been here.
140 years since you've been here.
Throw us together, baby. But nevertheless, we've had more young couples move into town in the last 5 to 6 years. But since we had this put in, and the fact that we got young families coming to live in Ashfield again is the greatest thing. And I really appreciate all the people all the work that went into it.
I appreciate those comments. Now you just have to teach me how to use it, and I'll be all set. Other discussion about Article 22, broadband debt transfer. Ready to vote? All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Passes unanimously. Article 23, is there a motion on capital projects?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. O'Lanick.
I move that the town vote to raise and appropriate the following sums to fund the following capital expenditures for fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023, totaling $292,000. And you can see there the list of different items that we're looking to purchase this year or to save money towards.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, was that Mr. Carter? Mr. Goodgen, seconded. Okay, please, talk to us.
So every year we try to set aside money for bridge replacement work. This is an ongoing effort. Most of the bridges in town need to be replaced, and us setting aside money every year helps us attain grant funding, and so we try to keep that account flush. The $35,000 for a generator for the highway department is critical. We learned how vulnerable we were with that last major snowstorm. The highway department, indeed the whole town, was without power. Without power, the highway department cannot pump fuel into its trucks. And we all know how desperately they were needed in that last snowstorm. The York rake is over 35 years old and due for replacement, beyond due. The $100,000 on that line item for a truck replacement is one of the large dump trucks that we have. We have one that's aged out, and we need about $300,000 total. So we're starting saving for that. So every year we'll try to put some money aside for that, and hopefully replace that within a few years. The $15,000 for the bathhouse renovation at the park is in addition to the $10,000 that we voted last year. So we were saving some money from last year for that, and we want to completely renovate and re-roof the bathhouse there. And the chairlift here at Town Hall, the one that goes from the ground level up to the first floor, is in desperate need of replacement. It's hard to get repair parts. It's hard for the repair companies to keep it operational, and so that $30,000 will replace that one. It gets the most use. A lot of people coming up to the first floor of Town Hall. The one that goes from first floor up to this level doesn't get used as much. It still needs to be replaced, but just not this year.
Good. Thank you. This has been recommended by the Finance Committee unanimously. Discussion. Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 23, as moved by Mr. Olanek, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That is unanimous, Madam Clerk. Article 24.
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Goodgen.
I move the town vote to raise and appropriate, or otherwise provide a sum of $300,000 for the purchase of equipping a new fire truck, including the payment of all costs incidental or related thereto. Such project to be carried out by the Town of Ashfield Select Board, contingent upon a Proposition 2.5 override, also called a debt exclusion override vote.
Second.
And I'd just like to note that this article is also contingent on the approval of a debt exclusion on the annual election ballot downstairs.
Is there a second?
Second.
Mr. Olanek, second.
So,
please, Mr.
Yeah,
Goodgen.
so I'm just going to speak real briefly on it. We also have Chief Walker here who can add a lot of details to it. Real simple, engine 3 is over 25 years old and the annual maintenance costs are in the thousands at this point. It's old and its reliability is getting to be questionable now. The projected cost of replacement is approximately $700,000 at this point, of which we have already saved $400,000 the put aside right now. Once ordered, this truck can take up to a year to show up because they're essentially custom made. Chief has gone through and got a spec list together. Everything inside the tank, the actual width and height of it, so we can make sure that we can get it into our fire station. By approving this debt authorization, the truck can be ordered now. Our plan, like we did with the Lake Dam, is to still seek out other sources of funds, try to pay it down, whether that be grants or just basically saving money. Without this authorization, we just don't have the money in the budget to get this ordered and get this whole thing moving right now. A few years ago, we had a study done by an outside consultant to try to help us get an idea of what we needed to do to update and kind of bring our fire department into the future. And a lot of real aging infrastructure. I mean, none of our trucks are very new. We can look at our very historical fire station next door. So this is an area that we've decided that we really needed to kind of act on and start doing some investment in. And this is going to be the first step.
Mr. Good, before you sit down, I didn't hear the word or borrow. You intended to say raise and appropriate and or borrow the sum of $300,000?
Yes.
Is that correct?
Yes.
So that's the amendment. It's not an amendment, it was just a speaking oversight. Mr. Olenek, you seconded. Okay, so he's asking to raise and appropriate through taxation or borrow the sum of $300,000. The words otherwise were too vague for us to actually move on. Obviously, if we get a grant, that's something already you're authorized to use that way. This has been recommended by the Finance Committee unanimously. I see our fire chief is waiting to speak. If anybody wants to hear from him, is there any questions, comments? Would you like to hear from the fire chief?
Yes.
Mr. Myers, before the fire chief?
Yes.
Okay.
So it's Dave Meyer, West Road. Is that truck would be one of the things that you folks would sell that we voted on in the earlier issues, the truck that you're eliminating, number 3 or whatever?
Yeah.
Would that be something that you would sell to another town or parts off the things, or would you keep it?
Yeah, Chief Walker could probably best answer that question. So,
okay, thank you.
Chief, for those who don't know you, please identify yourself.
Absolutely. Kyle Walker, Ashfield, Fire Chief here in town. Thank you very much, everybody.
Tight to the mic.
Absolutely.
No doubt, Chief.
So to answer your question about selling of the truck that is being replaced, it does potentially have a small amount of value, resale value. I believe from what I've seen, probably the best way to go about that would be to do an auction of some kind using an off-site auction facility or business and see what we can get out of it. But it is well beyond its replacement years. Its used years is 27 years old now. We like to see fire trucks replaced around 20. And all but one of our trucks are way over that. So it does potentially have a little resale value. I wouldn't be able to put a number on that. I can't imagine it's very high.
Thank you, Chief. Other questions before the Chief sits down? Yeah, Mr. Schwartz. Chief, why don't you stay here?
So I'm Leah Schwartz, Sears Road, and was just recently retired from the fire department after 13 years. I'm in full support of getting the truck. I think it's absolutely needed. I just want to underscore that part of the reason that we need to get this kind of truck is because our station is not equipped for a larger, more standard truck, and that's a cost factor for us. And so what I'm going to say is that this is great how we structured this by putting it in over time. It's a bit overdue. It needs to be done. We need to get more of the trucks replaced, and we also need to replace the fire station so that we have a better, more availability of the kinds of trucks we can get.
Thank you, Ms. Schwartz. You want to speak to that? Up to you.
Tirza makes a great point. The truck that you have seen me describe in the 3 pages that I put together, available out there, and it was we've posted it online, made it available here in Town Hall. It's also in the Ashfield News. This this truck could be a lot more expensive, but it also could be less expensive with modifications that we have to make in order to make sure that this truck fit where, in the space that we have. There is one spot in the fire station currently that this new truck would be able to go, and that is in the existing spot of the truck that is being replaced. Happy to show anybody anytime our size constraints over there, but it's a very good point. This could be less expensive with less modifications, but it simply wouldn't fit. And anybody who knows water knows that it freezes. We can't keep this truck outside, so it's got to go one spot.
Thank you. Further discussion, Mr. Pless. By the way, Ms. Schwartz, thank you, everyone who volunteers as a firefighter. Thank you so much for your service.
Phil Pless, Cape Street. I want to know how much less it would have cost for a standard fire truck and how much the new fire station is going to cost. Because I think whatever we're paying extra to fit in our existing fire truck is going to be a lot less than paying for a new station. We are a town of 1,800 people. Let's keep that in mind. How much fire protection? We have mutual aid. We are running ambulance services. Our fire department goes on as many ambulance calls as the ambulance does. We do have structure fires, but not a lot. And I think if we're going to start talking about a new fire station, I'm going to start talking right now. It's a lot of money for this town. We have to pay $100,000 more to get a truck to fit in there. That's a lot less than a few million to build a new station. Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Pless. Any other comments, discussion? Ready? Mr. Carter. Are you going to volunteer your house as our new fire station? It's a great location.
No, I've done some different things. Okay, just to get people talking. Yes, we've been on a steady march towards this new fire truck. We've saved up money. I just wanted to talk about the debt exclusion. All right, we have to pass it on the floor by 2/3. Some people may be saying, well, you know, why are we asking for a debt exclusion and we're taking so much money and paying off the broadband debt? Well, I think Mr. Olenek at a meeting a couple of weeks ago put it very succinctly, is that we have a really good track record of getting authorization to borrow money and then never do it, right? Time is on our side, that we can, over time, we will get certified for a new free cash, and we will, that is our plan that we want to execute as close as we can, is to find other funding sources, maybe some grant money, use free cash, use other sources so we don't even borrow the $300,000. Hopefully we won't need all the $300,000. But it does get us into the program, because if you've been ordering anything of any value through the supply chain, you know that it's going to take time to do it. So we want to just step off the ledge, get the truck coming. Between the select board and the finance committee, I think we're fairly confident that we can pay for the balance. We'll find a way to pay for the balance without the borrowing, but certainly pay for a majority of it.
Before you sit down, Mr. Carter, what's the relationship between what we'll be voting on downstairs with respect to a debt exclusion and what we're talking about here?
Good question. So this is a debt exclusion. So this is saying that we can raise this extra money for this one purpose, right? So it's different than a typical 2.5 override, which sticks with you forever, right? It's like that bad tattoo. You've got it forever. So the borrowing, when we do debt exclusions, we've spoken about this a lot. It is for one purpose, and once it's paid, we don't have to raise that money anymore. It has to pass on the floor by 2/3, and it has to pass on the ballot by a majority. So it's important for us to move forward, that you don't just run out of here and head out into the sunshine and go vote.
So please go downstairs and vote. Any further discussion on Article, 24? Are we ready to vote? This does require a supermajority of 2/3. What we've done prior to 2018 is we always had to count to certify for the Attorney General's office and for the Secretary of State's office that in fact we had the numbers to prove it was 2/3. We voted in 2018 that I could make a judgment of whether or not it was 2/3 vote. I expect to do so. If anyone wants to call into question my judgment, if 7 people disagree, our bylaw says, then I will actually have a hand count, our tellers will get to work. So, knowing that we need a supermajority of 2/3, all those in favor of Article 24 as moved, say aye. Aye. Opposed? Nay. In my sound judgment, I think we have 2/3. Does anybody disagree? It passes by a 2/3 majority, and that, if you want to make a note, Madam Clerk, that's the bylaw of March 19th, 2018, Article 2 is when we passed that. Article 25. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move that the town vote to approve the following spending limits for the revolving funds noted below pursuant to the Ashfield Revolving Fund bylaw and pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, subsection 53E and a half for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2023. Dog license and control, $5,000. Park, $3,000. Library, $2,500. And the police cruiser revolving fund for $3,000.
Is there a second?
Second.
This has been recommended by the Finance Committee unanimously. What is a revolving fund, Mr. Carter?
Oh, it's dizzying. So this is saying that, for instance, with the park, when they charge some fees, I think most of these fees probably have to do with swimming lessons and that sort of thing, that they can take that money and expend it. So, in other words, that money doesn't have to come all the way into the general fund, go through all the bookkeeping, you know, get certified as free cash and then appropriate it again. It can come in fees and be used. So it's the same for each one of these accounts, that it's actually coming in from outside fees.
Recommended by the Finance Committee unanimously. Discussion on this dizzying revolving funds. Ready to vote? All those in favor of the motion as moved by Mr. Carter, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? Article 25 passes unanimously. Article 26, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
I'm sorry?
I think we got a break for lunch.
All right, I invited those comments. Well, this is what I think, Mrs. Eisenberg. I think that we can take care of these revolving funds fairly quickly, I think, and then we'll break for lunch before we do 30. Or, how many people think that we should break for lunch right now? Raise your hand. 1, 2, 3. Not enough. Sorry. Okay, Mr. O'Leary.
Mr. Moderator, this is guaranteed to go quickly.
Okay, going to go quickly.
I move to see if the town will vote to authorize the Conservation Commission pursuant to Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53E and a half, to establish and use a revolving fund with a spending limit of $3,000 for fiscal year 2024 to accept receipts related to the Conservation Commission's work under the Wetland Protection Act for the purpose of funding legal advertisements in which any remaining funds may be rolled over into a similar revolving fund for fiscal year 2025.
And a second?
Second.
Mr. Carter seconds. Anything to add?
Just that this establishes a revolving fund for the Conservation Commission to use, up to $3,000, similar to the funds that you just voted on in the last article.
Very good. Any discussion? All those in favor of the motion as moved, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Article 27, revolving fund bylaw amendment. Mr. Goodgen.
Mr. Moderator, I move to see the town vote to amend Section 5 of the revolving funds general bylaw, adding the following line, the authorizing revolving funds table, period.
Is there a second?
So.
Second.
Okay, second period. All right.
Second period.
Talk to us.
Yeah, so what this is basically taking this new bylaw, or this new revolving fund that we just created in the last article, and we're adding it to the whole group of them in Article 25, so that they're all together and we can vote on it and move on to the next single rule. So
procedural thing.
Yeah.
Very good. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All those in favor of Article 27 as moved by Mr. Goodgen, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Article 28, is there a motion?
Mr. Moderator.
Mr. Carter.
Mr. Moderator, I move the town vote to authorize the select board, pursuant to Mass General Laws, Chapter 44, Section 53E and 1/2, to establish and use a revolving fund with a spending limit of $5,000 for the fiscal year 2024, to accept receipts related to the rental of town hall facilities for the purpose of funding building repairs, maintenance, upgrades, utility bills, and employee wages, in which any remaining funds may be rolled over into a similar revolving fund for fiscal year 2025.
Is there a second? And it's seconded by Mr. Goodgen.
This is, yes, this is what we just did, right? We established a revolving fund for the Conservation Commission. This is a formality, a staff saying the town wants to make a similar revolving fund for town hall.
Very good. This is recommended as well by the Finance Committee. Discussion? Yes, please. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Moderator. Nathaniel Brooks, 305 Main Street.
Thank you.
My question was just around the purposes for which the funds may be expended and who has decision-making authority around the expenditure of those funds, specifically the inclusion of employee wages. I want to understand if we're potentially facing a situation where employees would be making decisions about their own wages.
Mr. Carter.
Excellent question. The answer would be no. Right? The money could be used to do that, but it wouldn't be the employee making that decision. It would come through the select board to do that. What I expect is going to be happening as we get money into this, that a lot of these decisions as far as there's plenty of maintenance in this building, right? This is a beautiful, wonderful building that is a money dump, right? I mean, it is unbelievable how much money could be spent on this building to keep it and improve it. But so there's plenty of places for it to go. The idea was to include wages if there was some extra repair and some extra work that wasn't already budgeted, but just to make it all inclusive. But no, an employee won't be setting their own wage scale.
And for the most part, those who rent the building are responsible for cleaning it up, leaving it in the condition they found it, right?
Yes, yes, and a lot of that goes through the town steward, who does a wonderful job of policing that and working with the people that are renting it, organizations that are renting it.
Thank you, that was a good question. Any other discussion? Comments, question? All those in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. Motion.
Yes, Mr. Moderator, I move to see if the town will vote to accept the provisions of Chapter 40, Section 3 of the Mass General Laws, allowing the Town Hall revolving fund to retain remaining funds at the end of the fiscal year.
Is there a second? Look, got a second, Mr. Carter.
So
that wrong? Mr. Goodgen, I'm sorry.
So this article is related to the previous article. We established the revolving fund for Town Hall. This article is the procedural necessity to make sure that it is a revolving fund, so that we can retain that money year over year.
Great. Recommended by the Finance Committee. Discussion? Questions? All those in favor of Article 29 as moved by Mr. Atlantic, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? That passes unanimously. In the interest of marital harmony in my home, we're going to take a break now. I would say, should we come back at 2 o'clock? That'll leave us enough time to eat lunch and get back here? Anybody object to 2 o'clock?
I object.
Okay, what time do you think?
Why, true. I mean, I got other things. My bride, I have a bride at home. I have other things to do. This is gonna go, when am I gonna get done with this, at 5 o'clock? Yep.
I don't know what that means. Are you saying we should just plod on through for the next?
That's something.
Okay, do I hear a motion to suspend and we'll vote on it? Motion to suspend till 2 o'clock. Who wants to make that motion? Okay, moved and seconded? Okay, seconded by Mr. Goodgen. Any discussion? Someone disagrees with it is going to vote no. I think a couple of people are. All those in favor of suspending until 2 o'clock, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Opposed. Okay, so the motion carries. We're going to suspend you back at 2 o'clock. You got me fantastic. Thank you so much. I hope you come back. Got important work to do.